Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Disc Golf Examiner. Today, we're bringing you special coverage from the 2021 Brent Hambrick Memorial Open out in Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Brian Keegan, joined today by Kelsey Brakel and Ashleh Baumann. How are you ladies doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Fantastic over here as well.
Yeah. Hey, and I want to say a very special thank you to the Columbus Flyers, Camber Disc Golf Company, and Nick Long for sponsoring our coverage to be out here in Columbus, Ohio, at the legendary Brent Hambrick Memorial Disc Golf Course. And we're going to start things off with a little player bio here. This course is really known I've seen it for years being covered with video coverage. It's a pleasure to be out there and actually do it for the first year ourselves.
Oh, I like the finger guns, actually.
Little finger guns.
Yeah, that was good.
Kristy Moore, who's also a local player, and we've seen her come to Pittsburgh several times and really crush out there. Ellen Widboom, of course, who's a traveling professional, sponsored by Innova. And Kelsey here sporting some amazing socks.
She had in the best socks all weekend.
In the parking lot that morning, Brad Schick thought that they were ferrets. It was good.
So we're going to start things off on hole 18. It's a par 4. It is 582 feet.
So there's out of bounds over the road on the right, but then also if you end up in the tall grass on the left, and then it also wraps around behind the basket. So a lot of people this weekend who had the capacity to throw really far, I feel like kind of dialed it back, and we're throwing like 75% even on wide open holes like this, just because the fairway's tighter than you think.
Right, and it always feels like there's a headwind on this hole. It doesn't matter when you play it.
And it doesn't matter what the wind is doing on any other hole.
Right, exactly. Always a headwind. You always want to try and bite off as much distance as you can. You know, you want to get that 3, but sometimes it's not worth it. You get it to turn over and head towards the OB. So better safe than sorry on this hole.
Kristy giving that a good rip right in the center of the fairway, right? You either really want to be in the center there or just on the edge on the right-hand side, right? I see a lot of people playing that road sometimes as a skip.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I mean, Ashleh is in the ditch here and can probably speak to that, but if you end up in the ditch, it can be tough to get footing for a run-up for the second shot, which we need. The MPO players, I think, get far enough that it's not as big of a deal for them, but for us, like I threw my second drive, and Kristy's throwing her second drive here, and both of us are up there for a long putt. But I mean, if you can't get the run up, like Ellen's got rough footing here because she's on the side hill, and it can be muddy and stuff, and it's just hard to get the distance.
Right.
Luckily, Ellen has a really good forehand, so.
Third round, I actually hit one of these poles on the right side. It's not something you think about right away, but when you're in that ditch and you're trying to get it to hyzer in towards the basket, I ended up finding myself OB on my second shot. So just when you think you're past danger on this hole, you're really not.
Yeah. Oh, I remember this shot. This was beautiful. So Ellen's got this putter. I honestly don't know what it is. She throws the most beautiful floaty forehand hyzers with it. And like, even when she doesn't need to be throwing an anhyzer, when it's wide open like that, it's so pretty. It just floats.
Oh yeah, it literally just drops out of the sky. It's so high, but then it just plops right down.
Yeah. So you're putting for a 3 here, Ashleh?
I wanted that birdie all weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have the distance for it.
Ooh.
Just a bit outside. First putt of the day, though. I'm not mad about tapping in a par.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's,
Everyone's
I mean,
cleaning up their
for
paws.
most of us, it's just throw a drive, run a long putt, tap in for a 4. Like,
Exactly.
you have to have pretty significant distance.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to DQ, who was a huge sponsor of the event this year. As we move on to hole 1, it's a par 3, 344 feet. And this is one of the cooler holes on the course.
Yeah. This hole, I think if you have a forehand, it's great because you can just throw a big forehand hyzer out and around the big tree. If you don't have a forehand like me, who literally only has a backhand, you have to try and force an anhyzer over or throw something really flippy into what is usually a headwind. So I tried to force an anhyzer over. I failed, and I hyzered out into the thorn trees on the left.
Well, I'm going with the forehand play.
Which is totally the play.
Exactly. She's got a long forehand. I can't quite get the same distance that she can get with hers.
Yeah. And Kristy's in the same boat as me, but she threw hers much more to the right initially, so she's got a nice long look at it too.
Mm-hmm. I didn't quite get mine as wide as I had hoped. Trying to get a little more aggressive.
You harvested a lot of crab apples out of that tree, though.
Oh, yes. So I'm just going to do the same shot and try and get something up there for a putt and try and save my par. Easy approach shot from Kelsey.
This is tough. You end up in that stuff on the right, and those little spindly trees are just random.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is why she just pitched out like that instead of giving it a chance, because you don't want to give it too much of a chance and then
and
end
then
up hitting something early.
Mm-hmm.
Did Kristy hit Brian or the basket? She must have hit the basket. I would have remembered if she hit Brian.
I think she did. Right.
That would have been painful. Yeah.
I think we made you dodge quite a bit that day.
In order to get the best shot, you have to be in the worst place.
Exactly.
That's a good putt.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of got a roll away off of that putt. But you made your comebacker, so no worries.
Yeah, I just was throwing him a little low. I think it was just, a little bit of nerves maybe, beginning of the round, just trying to get into a rhythm.
Yeah.
And now we're moving on to probably one of the most iconic holes on the course, hole 2. It's a par 3, 489 feet. On the right-hand side, it's all hazard the whole way down pretty much. And
it wraps around behind the basket too.
Right. Yeah, so this play, I just really try and throw something stable that I know on a hyzer that I know is going to, fight back and bounce. I'm not going to mess with the hazard at all, but you also have to be careful not to get into the woods on the left because that can be a little tricky too.
Yeah, I try to do the same thing. Just throw something overstable that I know is going to come back in balance. It's tough for Ellen because she's kind of forehand dominant.
Right.
She trickled into the hazard here.
It was a trickle. I was so wondering what happened to the end of it.
Yeah, we couldn't see it off the tee. Kristy's kind of doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you throw here, Ashley?
I believe that is my test flight Kong.
Oh.
I want to say in the first round I threw my surge and I flipped it a little flat, and I think I was flirting with that hazard area, so I went a touch more stable. So now it's the Zeus, but
Gotcha.
yeah, that was my test flight Kong.
So Ellen is throwing from the hazard with a stroke penalty.
Correct.
And is nice and close for a putt.
Beautiful shot. Your upshots are so smooth, and you take zero time for even putting too. It amazes me how you just, you walk up to your lie, you know exactly what you're going to do, and then you just do it.
Kristy and I both play really fast.
Mm-hmm. I'm just throwing a little forehand approach with my drone. And easy par.
I absolutely love this course. They're not all par threes like I originally thought, but I think it's like a great challenging kind of like the hazards and stuff really make you have to play these unique lines, I think.
Oh yeah, and I think we've talked, Ashleh and I have talked before, I think, about if you're local and then you play this tournament, it's almost more challenging than if you are not local, because you're used to playing the course one way and then they stripe all of this OB and it just becomes a totally different monster.
I agree. Yes, absolutely.
So
I don't typically play the longs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is true. You are playing the longs today. As we move on to hole 3, it's a par 3, 344 feet down this hill. And obviously you have a lot of rough on the right-hand side. So you want to play something that's going to, oftentimes, you'd want to play a sidearm, I imagine.
Well, and you've got OB all along the left to protect the people who are over there on hole 4's tee pad. So since I don't have a sidearm, I am trying to throw something straight that's not going to hyzer very much at the end. And I think Kristy tends to be in the same boat as me. We're just trying to throw something straight and like hug the right as much as we
get
can.
Over those trees.
Yeah. And often it turns into what happened with Kristy, where you hug the right a little bit too much and then you get knocked down, kind of. But if you have the forehand's totally the play. Like Ashleh.
I'm trying to stay away from those woods as well, because obviously, throwing a forehand, it's going to be hyzering that way. You don't have the distance. You got to kind of almost push towards that OB.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like hanging it out over the OB is probably ideal, but because both you and Ellen ended up kind of in the fluff on the right. Did you, what's your line look like here? Do you have one?
No, I had nothing. A tiny window, and I want to say when I was getting ready to throw, I might have like hit the vine behind me and it just ruined what I was aiming for.
Yeah.
So I'll be throwing again to get out of there. I think
Ellen's in a similar boat. It's just there isn't a line back there. It's just whether you get lucky.
Yeah, it's poke and hope for sure.
Another thing I see come into play quite often is just past the basket. It's just on the edge of a hill. So, you can really go down.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cliff behind the basket, and the woods are way thicker than what you see here on the right. And so if you end up down there, sometimes it's very difficult to get back up in one shot.
Yeah, there's one log, I think, protecting you just right there. But yeah, if you miss that, it's much steeper.
There's that beautiful putter forehand of hers again. I don't know what that disc is. I wish I did.
I don't either.
I'm putting for 2 here.
I was going to say, I think that was your drive. Beautiful. I really do think the backhand is a great play, especially if you have like a turnover too. It's tough because it's so late to turn at the end.
Yeah.
But you have to
be able to trust it.
You have to be able to trust it, or get it right underneath that ceiling towards the basket, and you can get that distance. Because my forehand, I'm really just playing for a 3 because I know I can't reach it.
Ellen's got a tough putt here, which she makes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, just off the front of the cage.
Finishing out with the turbo putt.
I know. I would be too nervous to do a turbo even from that distance.
As we move on to hole 4, which is a par 4, 488 feet, kind of plays along this wooded line on the right-hand side, and it has OB on the left-hand side, blocking you from going onto other fairways here. And the basket resides on a stepped hill overlooking the dam here.
Mm-hmm.
And then just on the other side of the basket is the road, which is also OB.
Correct. Yeah, so to play this hole, you really want to throw something straight. If you can get a little bit of a turn on it, heading towards, the right side, it's perfect, just like Kelsey throws here. Maybe tucked in a little too tight with the woods.
Yeah, honestly, what Kristy throws here is what you want to do, where you are going basically straight out there, but you're staying in the short grass.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's nice to have a straight look at the basket for your second shot.
Exactly. And I almost nicked that tree, taking all the space I can get, trying to make it through that gap. But it puts me in a good position to have a better angle to attack the basket, I think.
Yeah.
Just got a little bit turned over on hers, but she's safe where she's at.
Yeah.
That one a little turned over again, and that did reach the OB, marked by those flags on the left. I'm going to throw a similar shot and try and just get something close. Got a little lucky break. Those woods over there, same thing. It's a steep and thick, and it's really hard to get your disc out of there.
It's hard when you're on the right side and you can't see the basket too. Just judging where that shelf is, because you're really trying to land either on the first shelf so you have an easy putt down, or right on the shelf with the basket.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the most difficult upshots, on this course because of that reason. It's hard to judge distance. It drops down, and then obviously you have to worry about any rolls or anything that go towards that OB road.
Kristy's just kind of playing for the shelf here, I think, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen did the same thing. She could have been a little bit more aggressive on her upshot, but she laid up to the first shelf, which still leaves you with a long putt, which she makes.
Right. Great putt. Even that putt is scary. You're like, please just draw some type of metal.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, so just a little bit low, I think.
Yeah, I was scared.
Tapping in but that was for birdie, wasn't it?
Would have been for a 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a coward.
It's tough. It's tough because the consequences of if you're too aggressive, especially on this hole.
As we move on to hole 7, it's a par 3, 471 feet. You have that OB on the right-hand side and the road on the left-hand side, which plays OB. But this basket is really in a tricky position because it's on the edge of a hill.
Mm. Yeah, this hole is very tricky.
And your camera angle does not make the hill look as scary as it is in real life.
Right.
It is about a 10-foot drop from that hill.
I'm just throwing something overstable again to try and hang it out a little bit over the OB on the right and land somewhere flat in the middle.
Right, because I've not seen one disc, no matter how steep of a hyzer angle you have on it, nothing like tombstones into the ground. Like, so many people will make that mistake of throwing it straight. I think Kristy's might have stayed. It was a little floaty. No, see, the same thing. It's so easy to skip across that road.
Yeah. And Ellen's got versatility here because she's been throwing forehands for most of the round, and she can switch it up to backhand just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think being in the ditch is not such a bad thing on this hole because, rather than throwing an upshot straight at the basket and doing what I did, which is sliding down the hill, you're kind of throwing your upshot up towards the basket. And you have the hill behind the basket coming into play a little bit, but it's a much less scary shot.
I agree. Kind of like what Kristy just did there.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's a better angle of approach.
Ellen ended up going long and kind of sliding down the hill behind the basket into those bushes.
I think it's pretty close on there.
This putt is so scary.
I think Kristy was joking about laying up. She's like, see, this is why I don't lay up. She's like, even when I try, it rolls away. I'm like, okay, well, Oh.
I didn't lay up. I ran it like a maniac.
Yeah, but you're such a good putter. Like, I have every faith that you can make all your comebackers. So
Ellen can't see the basket from where she is. She's putting at this total blind, just up the hill through the bushes, makes the putt.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. It was like one single chain caught it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You can see the sigh of relief because I know I've been up and down that hill multiple times.
Oh yeah.
Making sure I draw metal. It's such a scary putt, even though it's not that far.
Kristy making her comebacker.
It was funny, right? When I went to grab my disc, I looked down and she's like staring at me in the eyes, like ready to go.
Get out of the way, Ashleh.
Right.
All right, so we're going to go to hole 8. It's a par 3, 360 feet. This is actually from the short position, just because I didn't see it whenever I did the course walkthrough. But the basket is down here on this stepped hill again. And I got to say, this is a pretty challenging layout with the basket down there.
Yeah, this is perhaps even more difficult to lay up than either of the two previous holes. And on your drive, it's also tough because you don't want to hug the right side too tight because those woods are pretty much impassable once you get in, but you've got the OB right there, very close on the left side. So you definitely have to throw a right turning shot to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
The forehand is, again, a nice play if you have it. And that'll be nice for her. It's something she can lay up to the basket on. I was too afraid of the OB and hugged it way too tight on the right.
That fought through a lot, though.
It tried so hard. It's nice that it's a pointy disc.
Kristy is upset. She threw that one a little low. Forehand approach.
Yeah.
You really want to be as close to that ledge as you can possibly get without like flying over it.
You don't even really want to trickle over that ledge because there's so many steps. And you threw it upside down, I see, right?
I did. And I was really trying to like hit those steps and get it to slide down. Lisa Warner taught me that trick about throwing your putter upside down if you're trying to keep it away from rolling down the hill and, 70 feet long. I think Kristy might have just done the same thing.
Yeah, she did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
works
smart.
like a charm.
Oh, what a good putt.
I was really happy about that.
That was, I like how you're like prancing down the steps. That was excellent.
Thank you. And yourself, good putt.
Scary. It's so scary.
It is. It's like you don't even have to put anything on it. You're like, just send it on the line and let it fall in.
Yeah.
It's so steep. It doesn't look as steep on camera, but I was half wondering if, putting from a knee would be easier, but Kristy with the bogey.
So we're going to move on to hole 9. It's a par 3, 444 feet. I will say that this is a modified layout, so we are playing. We skipped a couple holes, so now we're playing 9, which is sort of an island, right? You kind of have to make it across the road, and if you get OB, you have to throw from a drop zone.
Yeah, so you have to get across that gravel path on your drive. If you fail to make it across the gravel path on your drive, there's a drop zone just next to that little bridge that you see on the right where the white sign is. But then there's also on the right side in those woods, there's a creek. And if you're in the creek or over the creek, you're also out of bounds. So the hole is kind of delineated by the gravel path in front of you and to the left, and then the creek on the right, and then the road behind the basket. So Ellen's
from Ellen.
Yeah.
Oh, I got so unlucky by skipping off that like random cement pad. That's a beautiful shot, Kelsey. Just down the middle. It's really what you want to do is throw something straight with, little movement. Just get over that path so you can make your approach shot. Because I don't know anyone that's parking this hole or getting a 2 on it without throwing it in.
At least not in our division.
Right.
I definitely watched some of the boys get all the way up there.
Yeah.
Kristy hung that out wider to the right than she wanted, I think, but it's still a putt from the top of the hill. Yeah, you can't go straight at the basket off your drive because you're bound to end up on the gravel path.
I'm throwing my buzz backhand. I was really wanting to give myself a close putt, but I ended up not getting it flat enough, and I ended up OB on my second shot. So I'll be putting for 4. Ellen's tucked up in these woods.
She committed to that so hard.
Oh my God,
that was
yeah,
a full body commit. And she made Thomas Neal go scurrying towards the gravel path because he thought that she was going to go out of bounds, and then it just turned out beautifully.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I fluffed my upshot and left it much shorter than I intended. Yeah, also shout out to all of our spotters this weekend. Some of them were local. Some of them were volunteers who are affiliated with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And they all were excellent. They put in a lot of work this weekend for us. And if you see someone wearing a purple shirt, they're affiliated with LLS, and they're not even disc golfers. They're just out here volunteering their time.
Yes, thank you so much. Everyone was super friendly, great to talk to. They all looked like they were having a great time. And it was a really hot weekend. So for people to come out and stand in the heat for hours, that's really something. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cleaning up.
So we're going to go ahead and move on to hole 10. It's a par 4, 408 feet, tightly wooded. You definitely don't want to be on the right side because there is a cliff. And honestly, the left side's pretty much jail anyway, the entire way up. So just stay on the path. That's the plan, right?
Mm-hmm. It's common denominator with a lot of these holes is stay in the middle.
Yeah.
This is one of the few holes on this course that I think requires at least for our division, requires a placement shot on the drive. So you're not trying to get it all the way. Ellen got a dirty skip off that route, but you're just trying to get down the middle, kind of in front of where that trash can is that you can see in the sunshine.
Right.
So that you can set yourself up. Oh.
Yeah, that's what we like to call worst case Ontario.
You're just trying to set yourself up for a second shot because it's kind of a backhand hyzer up to the landing zone. And then once you get up there, it's kind of a forehand shot up to the basket.
Kelsey, yours looks in perfect position. Kristy's was headed in that direction, just hyzered out a little early. I'm just trying to get back into position to, I know I'm taking a bogey. If you're straight off into the woods on the left, you don't have much.
Yeah.
So I threw my heat up there to the short tee pad. And I have a pretty good look at, a gap where I'm headed to get to the basket, but try a forehand crank.
That's a fantastic shot there, Ashleh, up through the gap.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'll have a good look to pitch up. Maybe save a bogey.
This is really all Ellen has from where she's at, is just chuck a hyzer into those trees because it gets she's cut off from the forehand line kind of where she was. Kristy had a good out though. I had a nice, easy backhand approach, which I totally missed, and then got the most insane skip ever. You've got the low ceiling there with the kneeling putt. That's about all you can do. I asked Ellen what she threw on this, and I think she said a shrike, but she has like 4 discs. Yeah! They're all red, and they all look exactly the same, and they're all different. So I could never tell. That was a great putt for Ellen.
We got to take a look at that again because it was just fantastic. That's probably, I'm going to give that at least 80 feet. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Probably 70 to 80 from the edge of the trees back there. That's a really, really good putt. And I was feeling pretty badly about that upshot, and as a result, was not feeling strongly about my putt and missed. It's tough when you're ending up in a situation like Kristy where you're off on the edge.
All right, so that's going to do it for our front 9 coverage from the 2021 Brent Hambrick Memorial Open. Special thank you again to Nick Long and Camber Disc Golf, as well as the Columbus Flyers, for sponsoring us to be out at the Brent Hambrick Memorial. So that's going to do it for us. So catch the back 9. Until then, keep banging
those chains.